Chapter 2. A full moon shone down on old Detroit, giving it a dead, eerie glow. 4 monolithic skyscrapers towered above the twisted shadows of the street level, the future gazing down with disdain upon the last crumbling remnants of the past. 3 a.m. Most of the city was long asleep, but in old Detroit, there was a feral street life at all hours. Patrolmen Fredrickson and Connors guided their turbo cruiser down a deserted street. 2 blocks ahead of them, another patrol car hummed. Fredrickson and Connors were watching the back door tonight. They didn't mind. It was monotonous work, but in this sector, monotony was welcome. They watched the stubby police car ahead of them disappear down an alley. The cars weren't much to look at, but they kicked the hell out of the streets, their twin-turbine engines sounding like banshees screaming when they were revved. The cops allowed themselves to be lulled into a sense of security. Above them, roof-mounted spotlights casually reflected off the buildings and the badly maintained storefronts. A garish, tattered billboard caught Fredrickson's eye. BB Techs, credit on 20-year family contracts. Mooncore had promised a lot to get people to colonize the moon back then. Now, even space travel was old hat. There was a waiting list of people ready to leave the ramshackle cities for the promise of something better somewhere. Anywhere. Fredrickson glanced at the computerized dash of the cruiser as he drove. Readouts, more readouts. He twisted his body in the seat in a vain effort to get comfortable. Half of the hardship that came with police work these days arose from the uniform, which was a literal pain in the ass. Padded bodysuits, high-impact plastic armor, sleek but cumbersome helmets. He tried to find a position that would put a little less pressure on his already strung-out bladder. Fat chance. He sank in his seat and accepted the discomfort with a stoic's sigh. Fredrickson and Connors took a corner easy. The lead car was once again in view. Far ahead of the first auto, a shadow shape glided across the street. Fredrickson tensed. Gut reaction. He wondered whether Alcott and Duffy, in the point car, caught it. His radio squawked to life. Someone at the Comlink dispatch center had spotted the blip on the radar as well. Got a rabbit running east on Hoover. Check it out. The lead car sputtered a reply. Roger, chicken shit, sir. Over. A laugh. That would be Alcott. He worked very hard at taking very little seriously. Relax, pal. We got you on the grid. Fredrickson relaxed somewhat. The runner ahead of the lead car was beeping steadily on the computerized map of the area. The lead car increased its speed and pulled around the corner, out of sight. A glowing red ball on the dashboard grid in the second car indicated the lead's position. From the map, Fredrickson could see that the point cruiser was getting nearer to its prey. Just routine stuff. Wino, most likely. Still, the guy was pretty lively for a wino. Fredrickson leaned into his comlink mic. See anything, Alcott? From the point car came Alcott's voice, very matter of fact. Looks like a woman. Connors, staring ahead, flashed Fredrickson a bemused look. They heard laughter from the first car. Jesus, pinch me, Duffy, Alcott exclaimed. Am I crazy, or is she stark raving naked? Duffy feigned shock. She's holding a sign. It says, free blowjobs. Fredrickson and Connors smirked at each other. Alcott's voice boomed over the radio. Oh my God! Fredrickson! It's your wife!" Fredrickson eased off on the gas. Wise asses, he thought. He could hear Alcott and Duffy laughing hysterically over the comlink. A stifled noise emerged from his right. Abruptly, the laughter from the first car stopped. Fredrickson turned to find Connors holding in his laughter, badly. A hoarse cry blurted forth from the radio. Connors bent forward towards the comlink. Nothing but static. Fredrickson glanced at the computerized dash grid. The red dot that had been the lead turbo cruiser burst suddenly, covering the screen with red light. "Shit," Connors muttered. Fredrickson stood on the gas. The turbo cruiser lurched forward, screeching around a corner, lights flashing and siren wailing. The car spun around a corner. Fredrickson gritted his teeth. He was tired of this war on the streets routine. He slammed on the brakes and gaped at the street before him. Connors unsnapped his riot gun without thinking, trying to control the nausea bubbling within him. Not 10 feet before them was the twisted, burning remains of the point car. The armoured bodies of Duffy and Alcott were sprawled on the street, their limbs positioned awkwardly, like discarded rag dolls. An ominous cloud of black, putrid smoke erupted from the shattered engine of the police cruiser. Fredrickson fought to keep control. He barked into the comlink. "Officers down! Unit 217 requisition backup and medivac!" The reply, which came in a hail of static, was short and to the point. "Unit 217, all available units presently engaged. Proceed as primary contact unit. Medivac request acknowledged." Connors pounded his fist on the dash. "Great! John Wayne time!" He eased open the passenger door. "Come on, I'll cover you." Fredrickson and Connors slowly opened the doors to the turbo cruiser. Whoever blew up the car in front of them was a hardcore nutcase. Whoever it was probably still out there, watching them now. Connors stood before his car, turning in slow circles. The bayonet-mounted flashlight on his riot gun sent a small circle of light playing across the boarded-up windows and jagged rooftops of the street. While Connors cased the area, Fredrickson approached the burning cruiser, his visor down. He gazed into the cracked visor of Duffy. Beneath the plexiglass was a mangled face. Stephanie Duffy, aged 28, on the force 4 years. No signs of life. Connors, still twirling slowly, glanced at Fredrickson. "How's Duffy?" Fredrickson was already moving towards Alcott. "She's dead," he said, bending over the second fallen patrolman. Alcott was still alive, barely. His body was beginning to writhe and shake uncontrollably. Convulsive shock. Massive chest wound. Christ. Through the smashed armor breastplate, he could see Alcott's heart. Fredrickson felt the tears well up in his eyes. This made no sense. Why these two? Why on a routine patrol? He froze over the body, his anger building. Connors still twirled. Connors moved the flashlight over the same spots, over and over again. There was no one out there, right? Then why was he so nervous? "Come on, man. Let's get the hell out of here." A faint click caused Connors to whirl towards the right side. He leveled his riot gun, ever ready. He made a mental note to yell to Fredrickson. It was his last real thought. He felt a brief instant of surprise as a 5-shotgun barrage of double-aught buckshot blew his chest plate into a dozen pieces. His fading consciousness watched his hands drop the riot gun to the ground. It was covered with blood, his blood. The roar of the shotguns was brief and deadly. Fredrickson, seeing Connors by it, made a run for the car, his own riot gun blazing. He couldn't see anyone out there, damn it. It was just too goddamn dark. He fired over and over again into the surrounding night. With a little luck, he'd make it. No luck was forthcoming. A faint burst of light flickered from the shadows. A 2-inch section of his left leg blew into space, a large crimson tear bursting from his pants. He hobbled onward towards the awaiting turbo cruiser. It seemed miles away. He could see the gunmen advancing now. They didn't seem human at first, just dark blobs running forward. Fredrickson dove towards the open driver's side of his turbo cruiser. Bullets hissed in the air above him as he scrambled behind the wheel. "Please, God, please!" he muttered, slamming the door and firing up the twin turbines. The car roared to life. The monitors and readouts on the dash lit up suddenly. He pulled his body into sitting position, slammed the car into drive, and gaped out at the street as the windshield before him exploded with a roar. Fredrickson felt his head snap back into the seat, his visor cracked. His face was hot, sticky. His consciousness was swimming. Everything seemed louder than usual. Everything was clearer. Everything was ultra. The figures emerged from the shadows. Fredrickson almost laughed. They were men, ordinary men. Not demons, not monsters, just guys. Street scum. He watched a short, rodent-like man dash by a brick wall, illuminated by the moonlight. The man cackled slightly as he produced a paint can and watched the first turbo cruiser smolder. A second, gangly man strolled up to Alcott's quivering body, pulled out a handgun, and sent a bullet speeding through the dying cop's brain. The quivering stopped. A tall man with a high forehead and a stately gait nodded approval at the remains of Connor and Alcott. He adjusted his sunglasses slightly and walked towards Fredrickson. Fredrickson choked back a laugh. He could never understand why people wore sunglasses at night. The gang leader opened the door next to Fredrickson and smiled. "How are you feeling?" Fredrickson opened his mouth to reply. Blood, but no sound emerged from his lips. The gang leader grinned amiably. "Go back and give your cop friends a message. Stay out of old Detroit." The man leaned in further and pointed the muzzle of his autoload shotgun in Fredrickson's direction. Fredrickson tensed. The muzzle of the gun meandered past Fredrickson's body and prodded the stick shift. Click, click. The car screamed into reverse, slamming the driver's door as it did so. Fredrickson grappled with the steering wheel, struggling to maintain control. He gazed through the shattered windshield, watching the scene before him drift back into the darkness. He saw the gang leader shoulder his autoload and the little idiot with the paint can move over the bodies of the 3 dead cops. The geek sprayed 3 large numbers on their battered torsos. 29, 30, 31. 4 other men emerged from the shadows. A black, an Asian, a barrel-chested thug, and a tall, clean-cut type. The big man picked up Connor's riot gun and tossed it to the clean-cut boy. The black man smiled at the flaming wreckage while the Asian lit a cigarette. For them, this was just another run-of-the-mill night. Fredrickson's car backed up wildly into the streets where, moments before, the surviving cop had shared a joke with Connors, Alcott, and Duffy. Dribbling blood as he coughed, Fredrickson extended a shaking hand towards the gearshift. He slowly inched the car into drive and zigzagged down the road. Fredrickson spat the blood out of his mouth and leaned towards the comlink. "Officer needs assistance," he wheezed. "Sector GK2. Officer needs assistance in Old Detroit." His own words thundered through his brain. Every nerve ending in his body seemed to be exploding. "Oh, Jesus," he blurted. "I'm fucked up." The car lurched down the street. Fredrickson slid into darkness. He didn't feel the impact when the turbo cruiser rumbled straight on into a heap of dented garbage cans.